Hello and welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me co-host Finn McDonald. Today we are grading recent offseason moves. These have happened within the past 2 weeks, I think, is the last time we've done anything. There have been a good bit of transactions. We had a whole market basically go with the first base market that we alluded to last week, but we didn't do any grading for it last week. So we got a whole position, basically every team changing their position. What do you want to start with here, Finn?
We will start with Taylor to the Diamondbacks.
Okay. I'm assuming you want to get a lot of Diamondbacks ones out the way. Naylor went to the Diamondbacks in exchange for Slade Ciccone and a competitive balance round pick B draft, um, an extra pick. I'll get the exact location of the pick first. I'll let you get the take off that you want to get on this transaction first.
For the Diamondbacks, I'll go a B. For the Guardians, I'll go a C. I think the Guardians could have got more out of it, and for the Diamondbacks, they just addressed the position that they really needed to address with Christian Walker having left for the Astros.
Yeah, so I guess we should have alluded to the other. We maybe should have done the first baseman in chronological order, but yeah, Naylor goes to Arizona. Um, they had a vacancy now that Christian Walker has left. Slade Ciccone was going to be like their eighth starting pitcher. He's going to be behind even a couple guys in the minor leagues for Arizona. So the perfectly fine depth guy to move over. Naylor in return for 1 season or 2 seasons of Naylor. Do you know off the top of your head, Finn? Just 1 season. That sounds right. Um, and then competitive balance pick. It's round B, so that should be after the second round, unless I'm just completely whiffing and it's after the first round. But
I believe
I
after the first round is the competitive balance round.
yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I'm not sure the exact location of this pick, but it's an early round pick that's very valuable. Um, I think this addresses need um for Arizona, and I think in Cleveland, they really didn't need Naylor anymore, and he kind of is a little expensive. They now have Manzardo. Um, they added Carlos Santana. We'll get to that later. Um, Manzardo, Chase DeLauter, Jokenski Noel. They have a ton of these big first base, corner outfield guys, so they just kind of wanted to free up the position. Um, and yeah, I think it's a good move for both teams. I think for Cleveland, I like the get back of Ciccone, who you have 6 years of control of, and a competitive balance pick that is pretty much universal value. Like it, you have to draft here, and I think some people will look at it like uh they didn't. You're not getting anything right away, but I do think the ability to add to your draft pool is pretty important. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna go a B plus for Cleveland, and then for Arizona, they needed to do a move like this. I'm gonna give them a B, just because I think they could have maybe found better opportunity costs than going with Naylor, even though that Ciccone wasn't gonna be a guy logging a ton of innings for them. Um,
We seem
I'm
to agree with Arizona's grade.
yeah. Um,
However, differing immensely with Cleveland's.
yeah. I think some of it makes sense. I mean,
I think I
trying
may
to
have
charge the laptop.
undervalued the draft pick.
Yeah,
Treated it
I
as
think
more like a throw in.
I think the draft pick's more of the main piece here, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing out on here. Um, we'll see later with a slightly worse first baseman that the first base market, even on trade, isn't that valuable. So what move do you want to go to next? I'm sure there's an Arizona move.
Burns.
Let's just jump to Corbin Burns. So he signed a 6-year, $210 million contract. There is an opt-out after the second year, which means he could essentially, it's probably likely going to just be a 2-year, $70 million, but Burns does have the ability to opt into those final 4 years. How do we feel about this deal, Finn?
I most certainly did not see it coming, but it definitely filled a need. The
Yeah,
D-backs to me, they just didn't have this guy that scrims out ace on paper. Now they do.
yeah. I think they already had a pretty solid rotation, and now they've just made it even better. Um, I
Takes
think
their very solid rotation and turns it into great rotation.
yeah, I agree. The depth now in this rotation is pretty strong. Um, Burns, he probably ranks between 7 and 10 in starting pitchers. I haven't finished my starting pitcher rankings for our eventual top 100 list that is coming out soon. But I'd assume he's in that range. Um, he's a really good pitcher, and this is market value for a player of Burns' caliber. 30, 35 for the next few seasons. If I had to guess, he's going to opt out of that and get a longer term contract after the first 2 seasons. We'll see at the end of the day, but I would think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
would agree with that, provided he performs how you would expect Corbin Burns to perform.
yeah,
If he
for
has
sure.
2024 Jordan Montgomery twice, then probably not.
That would definitely suck. Um, I think prior to this, we talked about what we thought Corbin Burns teams would be, and Arizona wasn't one of them. I think we said Chicago, uh, San Francisco, Toronto were the teams that we thought he would go to, or Detroit as a long shot. But I think another move made us think that maybe they're not in on Burns so much. Um, Arizona was a surprise. I think something that we maybe didn't really put enough account into is Burns is going home. He lives in Arizona. Um, I think that played an important factor for him. So, do you have anything else on this deal? I guess we have to grade them, but do you have anything besides the grades?
So, great here I have B.
I have a B plus. I think that's about what we graded Max Fried.
Yeah,
Could I be wrong? I'll go up to A minus just because I feel like this is a little bit better than Max Fried, because if he just has one good season over the next 2 seasons, like one good for Corbin Burns season, he's gonna opt out. So I feel like the risk of him pitching at 35 on this contract, making $35 million and not being very good, it just doesn't really exist. Unless he's horrible immediately, which like I just don't see happening. If that happens, like I still feel like there's nothing out there that would immediately jump out at you to say that that's possible. I know his K rates have declined a little bit the past couple years, but that was because there was an exchange of weak contact. Uh, Other than that's not so much a sign of decline as much as his velocity is still there. Even though his cutter velo went down like a tick or two, his fastball velo is still there. No significant signs of decline. That's what I'm going with.
it
Um,
really isn't Burns over Freed either. It's more of Diamondbacks needed a pitcher more than Yankees did.
oh
And
yeah,
Burns is more short term than Freed.
yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, do you have anything else on this one?
I don't.
All right, let's go ahead and start with the first base fiasco of December 21st. Is that good with you?
Yes.
Or I guess it was December 20th. So I think an important context to note here is the Astros had lined up a trade for Arenado, and it was declined by Arenado with his no trade clause. Um, Not sure why it was declined, but then in response, Houston lands a deal with Christian Walker for 3 years, $60 million. Hey, Finn, how do we feel about this Christian Walker signing?
I go an A here because it really, I feel like definitely market value, definitely something Astros needed. They needed either a first or a third baseman.
Yeah,
I also feel like this spells the end of Alex Bregman.
100%. I think before this, we asked on the trade episode when we talked about the Tucker trade, we were like, how do we feel this signs towards Bregman's eventual like end of the era with Alex Bregman? As I stumble on every word in that sentence. Um, and we said very much so. I think this move absolutely just killed any chance of Bregman coming back. Um, and I think it's a good move. I think relative to the other first baseman on the market, I think Christian Walker, he might have been the best. And I feel like that's a hot take from a lot of people, for a lot of people, but it's worth saying I'm a Mets fan. I think Christian Walker right now might be the best. Um, so, and then at the $20 million AV for 3 seasons, really good here. I think Christian Walker is gonna just kill it in Houston. I think he's gonna hit so many home runs. Him and Isaac Paredes are going to have a hitting home runs to left field competition. Um, See who can have the weakest hit home run between the two of them. That barely squeaks over the Crawford box. I think that's what they're gonna be doing all year. They're gonna combine for 65 homers. It's gonna be great. Um, I think this is a great move. I think it's an A minus. Just because he's already 34 or 35, or is he 33? He's not 30. Do you know off the top of your head, Finn?
Hmm. Give me a second.
Okay. Either way, I think this is a good move. Finn said A, I say A minus, just because, yeah, 20 million when
33.
he's okay. 20 million at 35 isn't as bad as 20 million at 37. So A for both of us. A for both of us. Um, then the team that was probably biggest linked to Christian Walker, the New York Yankees, they make a move to acquire Paul Goldschmidt on a 1 year, $12.5 million deal. Just based off of the fact that it's a 1 year deal and there's some upside to it, I have to give this an A minus. Just because I don't know if the upside is actually there, but it is Paul Goldschmidt. The namesake is there. Just a season ago, he was a really pretty good player still, even if he was uh even in 23 was a shell of his former self. He was still a very good player. And I think if you get 2023 Paul Goldschmidt, you're very happy on this deal. I think this is a Cashman W this offseason. And I think we're going to talk about another Cashman W this episode. Potentially, we might not get to it. What do you think about this Goldschmidt deal, Finn?
Yeah, I agree on that A. You
Yeah.
get no wrong signing somebody like Paul Goldschmidt to a 1 year, $12 million deal.
And I understand why Yankee fans might have wanted them to go all in for Christian Walker or Pete Alonso. But you're in the position as the New York Yankees to where they should be linked to every big free agent in every offseason as long as they're not tied up to an extreme amount. And by signing Paul Goldschmidt, it allows them to have the flexibility to go spend big on first base next offseason with Vladimir Guerrero. And I feel like that little intricacy, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't care about, but I do care about that. That is important. And in terms of like a Houston or whoever's going to sign Pete Alonso, they're probably not going to be a team that's going to be a big Vladdy team next year. So I think this is a great move for the Yankees. It keeps them flexible going forward and gives them a guy to play at first base. And what do we say about 1-year deals, Finn?
Can't go wrong.
No such thing as a bad one. That's for sure.
Even if
Um,
you give somebody $70 million.
I wouldn't like giving somebody $70 million for one season, unless they are a two-way superstar. Yeah. So we'll go forward to the next player that I thought was actually a better fit for the Yankees, and Sheldon, as a Yankees fan, also thought this, and it was Carlos Santana. 1-year, $12 million deal to Cleveland. Like we said later, they traded Naylor. Yeah, Carlos Santana fan, switch hitting first baseman, won a Gold Glove last season. Ended up with like a 118 WRC plus. What do we think about Carlos Santana?
Another 1 year deal.
I very much agree. Same thing. 1-year deal allows you to fill the Naylor gap for, you know, basically you get to trade Naylor to then get Slade Ciccone in a competitive balance pick. So maybe those two moves are more on aggregate together. I don't know,
I
but
I also don't expect the Guardians to be in on Vladdy. They just
yeah,
don't
they're not.
spend the money.
I agree. And then yeah, Santana, he at least brings you some defensive value at first base. It allows you to versus Naylor, where he would probably have to be able to get some DH time. Like it's a good move to make. I like it. Keeps them flexible, and they now have Slade Ciccone there in Cleveland. Give Slade Ciccone some, or give Cleveland a pitcher, and yeah, good things happen. Do you have anything else on Carlos?
No.
We just both agree it's a great move. All right, last. I think this is nope. Did we do Jake Berger last episode? We definitely did.
Yes. We did.
This,
I don't think we did Nate Loud though.
yeah, I felt like we should have seen this one coming after they got Jake Berger. But yeah, the Nationals trade for Nate Lau. In return, they give up left-handed pitcher Robert Garcia. Um, Robert Garcia, he had a 5 ERA last season. You look at his FIP,
Wait, he got a
it's like a
15 ERA.
5. Big
Okay.
difference. I think his FIP was like a 3.2 and his xERA was a 2.9. He's a left-hander, gets a ton of ground balls, a ton of weak contact. This is, he wasn't going to be good with a bad Nationals defense behind him last year. And the Rangers really needed relief arms. They saved $10 million, which we'll talk about how they spent that $10 million later by trading Nate Lowe, who he's good, doesn't provide a ton of pop. Some of that could be just Rangers, their stadium is huge. It really suppresses home runs. But I think this is a good move for Texas. I would give this a let me think. I would give Finn. We're doing a lot of grading on first base moves here. I give this one an A, just like the other two.
Both sides too.
Yeah, I think I go a A minus for Nationals. They're filling a position for them. I feel like they could have gone a little bit lighter on the package for Nate Lowe. I feel like they had a couple other arms that they could have given up that, you know, you would rather part ways with than a guy who peripheral numbers look really great with. But regardless, this did make their team better. And they were a team that was going to likely be spending that money anyway. So A minus. You say A for both.
Yeah.
I think this trade was overly criticized on the Rangers' part because Robert Garcia is a good arm. Reliever ERA is going to be very fluctuating season to season, regardless of how talented you are. Other than that, that basically ended the first base saga that happened. If we want to talk more, Nationals brought in Josh Bell the other day for 1 year, $6 million. I guess we'll
Where's he
grade it.
gonna play?
I mean, he's got a DH. He's gonna be a bench player. Oh well, it's Josh Bell. Like it's $6 million for 1 year. It's not that significant. I guess I'll give it a B. We don't have to talk anymore about Josh Bell. One thing we will talk about is Nationals re-signing Trevor Williams. There we go. I was like, which Williams is it? I know I've seen him pitch many times for the Mets. He was not good for the Mets. Trevor Williams, 2-year deal, $14 million. Trevor Williams had a ton of success this past season, and then he got hurt midway through it. This is honestly kind of fine for getting a guy for $7 million a season who can, fill in the back part of your rotation. I give it a B plus.
I go A minus. I
Yeah,
feel like that's way below market value for a starting pitcher.
yeah. So I feel like the reason it's not like a slam dunk A plus is Williams does have that injury concern. His track record isn't flawless, and he does throw 89 miles per hour. So there is reason to be concerned about him having success going forward. Um, but it's $7 million, man. Like it's nothing, right? Um,
The injury
that sounds
concerns were why I went A minus, not A or A plus.
yeah, 100%. All right, there were other signings that happened. Let's. Do you want to talk about the Mets signing, Finn?
Sure.
Re-signing. Uh, Sean Manaea, 3 years, $75 million. Notably, $23 million deferred money. So a team besides the Dodgers has deferred a contract. The internet would have previously told you that the Dodgers are the only team that are allowed to do it. What this basically, I'll let you talk about the move real quick while I pull up the contract specific stuff because it gets weird with deferred money. So how do you feel about Manaea, Finn?
Mets needed that one more starting pitcher. They got it done. Makes the
Yeah,
rotation just that much better.
yeah. So now, basically, what deferring the money does is it lowers the luxury tax hit for these seasons from 25 million to 22 million. It doesn't sound crazy, but it helps. Manaea now slots in the rotation. Senga Manaea at the top of the rotation. Holmes, Montas, David Peterson to round out the rotation. They have their depth arms. They needed to bring in a top of the rotation guy, and I think this is the exact move they needed to make. I think Manaea is great. I think the changes he made mid-season are like legitimate. Yeah, Sean Manaea. I think this is the money's there, but I think it's pretty much market value for how good I think he's going to be and how good teams probably think he's going to be. I'm going to give it an A-.
I'm gonna go B.
Okay, we're a little bit off here, so I'm interested.
I think there's injury risk with this arm angle.
That could be a cause for concern. I guess he only has had a half season doing it. There's some validity to that. And I guess we won't really know until we know. He's at least had a history of being semi-durable. I know 2024 was an innings career high for him. I think a lot of that was, COVID shortened season, 2 seasons where he kind of got pushed out the rotation in San Diego and San Francisco. And then before that, he was an unproven young player. So we'll see. But I do think this could be your point of injuries is valid, but I think that is the thing with every pitching contract. Like every pitcher could just end up getting hurt. But you did mention it on the point of the arm angle, which I guess if you're comparing him to Chris Sale, who he liked to mimic the throwing of, then there could be some injury risk that he previously wouldn't have had.
It's not just Chris Sale either. It's sidearm. It's
Yeah.
documented to have injury risk.
Yeah. If it's unnatural. So, but in this case, it does appear to be unnatural. What move do we want to move forward to now?
You pick.
Okay, I'm assuming that means don't have one off the top of my head. Let's do we have a couple more really fun ones, and then we're kind of getting into the dangerous territory with these moves. Let's talk about the other Yankees dub that I think they had over the season. They make a trade with the Cincinnati Reds in return, or they give up Jose Trevino. In return, they get Fernando Cruz and Alex Jackson. How do we feel about this trade, Finn?
Yankees get an A. The Reds get a D.
I agree. Very, very wholeheartedly. For those who don't know Fernando Cruz, he's a average major league reliever, but I'm sure they will tap into something in New York because they do have a tendency to develop the most possible out of relievers, even if they can't develop anything else. And Fernando Cruz has an elite splitter, and he has 80th percentile extension from a guy who's I was gonna say not particularly tall, but he's 6'2", so I would be lying in that standpoint. But strikes out a ton of guys, 99th percentile K percentage, 99th percentile whiff percentage last season. Like, this is a fun guy. And then Trevino to Alex Jackson. Trevino's a little bit better, but it's not that much better. And Alex Jackson is a lot cheaper. So they basically, in the acquisition, as an asset, I feel like they didn't downgrade by that much at backup catcher, and they bring in a guy who I think has legit upside as a reliever. So if you have anything else on this one, I'll let you go here.
How close are you to giving the Reds an F?
Um,
I was kind of close, but I'm going D.
I think for them, I just don't see what. I mean, I do see Trevino, since Tyler Stevenson isn't a great defensive catcher, I do see the fit. with Trevino at least bringing some pitch framing to the table, but I feel like I would have rather just brought in a more proven backup on the free agent market. I'm saying this, there might not actually be that many great options on the free agent market currently. Um, Off the top of your head, who do you think the top free agent catcher is?
Well, defensively, Austin Hedges.
Yeah, just Monty Grandal. He's still out there, right?
Yeah, but I think he is worse than Hedges when it comes to defense.
Yeah, but in general, like I feel like I would rather had Grandal than Trevino, especially I would rather have had Grandal and Fernando Cruz than Trevino. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it. Um, but maybe this works out for since I don't see the upside of it for Cincinnati. I see a ton of upside with this move from the Yankees. D for me for Cincinnati, and then this is a rare. I mean, this is. I'm saying rare like it's crazy. Like I didn't just give the Goldschmidt move an A. This is an A minus. Cruz is an older guy. That's why I do think there is some limit to his ceiling, even though he did have some extreme performance numbers last season. Um, should we move on to an organization that we have spoken very highly of over the past year?
Sure,
Do you have a guess of which organization this is?
evidently not the Chicago White Sox.
Um, yeah, it is not the Chicago White Sox.
I know we
Um,
speak well of Tampa Bay Rays.
and no, we're not even talking about the Rays fan. We're talking about the Jesus Luzardo to Philadelphia trade. Um, in return, they get Sterling Kaba and Amarion Boyd, and they threw in Paul uh, McIntosh to Philadelphia. He's going to kind of play in as a third catcher for them at AAA level. Um, how do we feel about this trade, Finn? For context, Sterling Kaba, I believe, was the 77th prospect in Major League Baseball prior to this trade. And then Amarion Boyd was the 23rd in Philly system, so just kind of a throw-in guy.
Marlins get an A, Phillies get a C. I feel like the Phillies overpaid.
Um, I feel like this is a B and a B plus for me, a B for Philly and a B plus for Miami. I With Miami, it's like I feel like Cabo was probably the highest ranked prospect they could have gotten. I also don't like Sterling Kaba that much as a prospect. I don't think there's that much of a ceiling with him as a smaller guy who doesn't really hit the ball very hard. That being said, his approach at the plate should get him to the majors, and his glove is great at shortstop. They didn't really have a guy like this in their system, so I think getting Sterling Kaba is a good get for them. Jesus Luzardo, like I understand a season or two ago he was very good for Miami, and he has a ton of things going for him good, even off the field. Like he's a great dude. But there's a legitimate possibility that he comes back next season and like his 90, 97, 98 is now 93, 94, and it doesn't have the extra jump to it. And I think in that situation, you're getting nothing close to Sterling Kaba. And I think Miami weighed the risks with Jesus Luzardo and were like, we should move off from him now. While there is some still, buying market for him. Um, and yeah, Kaba's a good get. So I'll let you speak your opinion on this deal a little bit, and then we're gonna talk about Miami's
My
trade
opinion
history.
is, wow, I'm shocked the Marlins managed to get a top 100 prospect for Jesus Luzardo. I did not think he was worth that. That's why I gave the Phillies a C.
Yeah. And then Luzardo, 2 years of team control coming with him. Sure. I mean, it's inexpensive pitching. He's going to be their 5 starter next year, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing out on. Like, Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez are probably better than Jesus Luzardo. Um, but it's still a great ad. He's a proven major leaguer. Uh, I hinted at it. We're going to look at the recent Marlins history just because we're going to have some time at the end of this episode, and it's about to get real nasty with the moves that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to talk about the recent Marlins trade history because I feel like this organization has been a little scrutinized over the moves that they've had to make. And I feel like you and I feel pretty strongly about the moves that they have. So as my face is probably super bright now with this white screen from
Ugh.
MLB.com.
Somebody could really give the Colorado Rockies some lessons like this.
All
You
right,
turned out a team.
Finn with the call outs. We're going to go over the Miami top 25. Thomas White, draft pick, we're not going to talk about. He's their number 1. Noble Meyer was a Marlins draft pick. They're number 2. We're not going to talk about. Sterling Cabo, just talked about him. Got for Jesus Luzardo. Agustin Ramirez, going to probably be their everyday catcher this year in the big leagues. They have 6 years of him. Just got him at the deadline for Jazz Chisholm. He's their number 4. Davison De Los Santos. As a 20-year-old, he hit almost 40 home runs in the minors last season. They got him for AJ Puck, a reliever, at the deadline. Robbie Snelling, they got from San Diego at the deadline. Who was even the trade there?
They gave up Tanner Scott.
You're right. You're 100% right. It was Tanner Scott. Robbie Snelling, starting pitching prospect who was legitimately going to get a ton of potentially get some run with San Diego with how beat up their pitching staff was. And he's basically MLB ready. Miami gets him and some other guys for Tanner Scott, who's a great reliever, but it was half of the season of a great reliever. Carter Johnson, draft pick from them. They're number 7. Dylan Head, centerpiece of the Luis Arias trade at the beginning of the season. This trade got so scrutinized, and we were like, dude, they did pretty good. Great athletic center field option. He might not develop. He's 20 years old and A-ball. We'll figure it out. JP Orlando, Joe Mack were Marlins draft picks, or Joe Mack might not have been a Marlins draft pick, but was not a trade guy. Jared Cerna, I actually don't know how they acquired him. If he was a guy, he's flown under the radar for me. Adam Mazur was a part of the Tanner Scott trade. He's their number 12, another guy who could log some innings for them. Even more guys, Max Acosta, Edhelrucre Vargas, they're 17 and 18. They were a part of the Jake Berger deals. Jacob Marcy, their number 22, was a part of the Arise deal. Jacob Berry was a draft pick of theirs. I thought he was somebody else. And I think they've done a really good job here, Finn, acquiring a farm system. This was maybe an unnecessary 5 minutes about the Marlins farm system, but if you have any more comments before we get to the other moves.
I don't.
All right. That's just my 5-minute tangent about how the Marlins have done. Couple more important signings. Walker Buehler to Boston, 1 year, qualifying offer essentially, $21 million. I think there's some incentives that take it around 23, 24 million. What do we say about 1-year deals, Finn?
God. Hey.
No. Yeah. And I feel like I predicted Bueller prior to free agency opening because I felt the fit with Boston was so perfect. Bueller really struggled throwing his fastball last season. Boston does not throw fastballs. I think this will be a great fit. They'll figure something out with him. He will get money on the free agent market next year. I'm certain of it. Texas, we mentioned them clearing money with the Nathaniel Lowe trade. And after the deal, they signed a 1+1, $37 million deal with Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson, a purely hit right-handed pitchers guy, but he's going to slide in as their DH for next season. What do we think
Well,
about
you
the
think
Jock
their DH
Peterson
will
deal?
be when there's a lefty, though?
Ezekiel Duran will probably fill in somewhere. They'll have Justin Foscue. He'll be at the major league level. They'll have guys.
You
They
don't
also
think
have
it'll be Jock Peterson?
no. They also have the Leody Taveras like on the bench. They'll maybe DH Adolis Garcia and then improve their outfield defense. They can do a lot of interesting things there. How do we feel about this Jock Peterson deal, Finn?
Who has the option? Is it the team or the player?
I assume it is a player opt out.
Honestly, I don't know how they can go wrong with this one either.
Yeah,
I do
because
think it might have been a little bit of an overpay.
sure, but like
B
if
plus,
we're what? Go ahead.
B plus.
B plus. Yeah, I think that's about where I'm gonna go to here. Just think about it this way: if this deal goes right and Jock Peterson has essentially the season he had last season, he's opting out and hitting the open market. If things go bad, then you have Jock Peterson for a 1-year, $18 million deal, which is very movable. Jorge Soler just got moved with the Braves having to eat none of the contract with multiple years for like 13 million. So like this is fine with Jock Peterson,
Angels picking up another contract.
but not taking on talent in return for taking on the deal. Whatever. Great move, Angels.
Speaking of which, the Angels get an F for that.
Yeah, I feel like we graded that one. We might not have though. Either way, we give them an F. Good job, Atlanta. You got off $13 million for DFAing Griffin Canning. Wonderful guy. Wonderful job, guys. Um. Oh, I don't know how we've gone so far into the episode without talking about the Los Angeles deferrals. They have re-signed Teoscar Hernandez to a 3-year, $36 million deal with a 4th-year club option. For I think the club options for like 12 million, or it's significantly less than normal AAV. And there's money deferred on this deal. There always is. This is the deal that everybody get crazy about. Jeff Passan tweeted at a fan about this deal. What do we grade this deal, Finn? For Teoscar?
And minus. I feel like this needed to happen.
Yeah,
Straight up.
I don't know if it needed to. I feel like I would have rathered Ha-Seong Kim. Honestly, I would have rathered Ha-Seong Kim and then just move Mookie Betts to the outfield or
I
to
feel
second
like the
base.
Dodgers are in and out on Kim though.
They might still be. Um, Teoscar, reason I'm concerned here, now he has to play left field every day because he can't DH with Otani in the team. So it's like, I don't know. I just it's hard because you're penciling in a pretty poor defender out there every day for the next 3 years, and it's not like Peterson where it's $18 million here. It's an extra $4 million and an extra year guaranteed. For that reason, I'm gonna go a B minus, and I do think there is a little bit more concern about it. Like I would be a little bit more concerned about Teoscar's bat because there's a lot of swing and miss there, even though he's a great athlete. So he might age a little bit better than some high swing and miss power hitters do. But B minus is still a solid grade. So, and the money's deferred. There's a club option. I think they did the right stuff here. Typically how this Dodgers front office has worked.
I
B
feel like
minus,
if the contract goes good, they definitely pick up that option.
100%. Let's see. One other deal. Gleyber Torres, 1 year, $15 million to Detroit. Gleyber is an interesting player, Finn. He can hit. He can't really field. He probably needs to move to third base. But he doesn't want to play third base. I think he declined an offer from the Nationals because they wanted him to play third base. How do we feel about this Gleyber Torres deal, Finn?
Honestly, a Tigers needed to do something, and they did something.
Yeah. And what is the length of this deal, Finn?
1 year.
It's a 1 year deal. It can't be bad. It can't be detrimental to the team. Because he won't be there for that long. And I feel like the bat is pretty proven with Glaber. There's not too much upside with it. He's like going to be like a top, 130 player, but he won't really be any higher than like 80 in a given season. So he has a strong range there. Um, and he can play second base. He's not going to play it any well though. Um, I legitimately do think there is a move to third base, like in his cards, that would play him very well, but I guess he doesn't want to do it. Now for them, they've announced that Colt Keith will be making the move to first base. This sounds like the end of Spencer Torkelson, so potentially another first baseman on the move here, Finn. Um,
Honestly, I don't know. Does Torque still have that much value? He's kind of turning into a Brett Beatty.
I mean, notorious slow starter Spencer Torkelson. Um, let me pull up the advanced numbers because I do not know them off the top of my head. Going into this season, I was really in on Torque. I think we might have mentioned it in the top 100 that he was like 101 for me, and I didn't include him. Defensively, he's still good. Batted ball numbers looked a lot worse from 23 to 24. Um,
Being good defensively isn't bad, but for first base, it's not going to
it's
cut
not
it.
it's not a needle mover. You're right, 100%. Um, he still, doesn't chase a ton, and his bat speed is good. So I don't know. Somebody will probably end up with Torkelson on their roster. It'll probably be the Tampa Bay Rays, and Torkelson will make an All-Star appearance in 2026 and hit 34 homers. So just go ahead and write that one down on your 2026 bingo card. Um, yeah, that's. Do you have anything else on Glaber?
Oh,
Okay. Two more real signings that I do want to talk about, and then we'll talk about any like remaining moves that are gonna happen in the coming weeks. This is one that I really liked. This is I don't know. A lot of people aren't gonna really give a fuck about this move. Patrick Sandoval to the Boston Red Sox, 2 year, $18 million. Um, He's making 5.5 this season, and then 12.7 next season in 2026. He is going to miss the first half of the year with Tommy John surgery. How do we feel about this Sandoval move, Finn? You know how I feel about it.
Basically, a 1 year deal.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to be coming back late in the season. If I had to guess for Boston and like many other teams, he's probably going to be a guy who is a reliever at the end of the year for Boston, a left-handed reliever. And I think that's good for him because if you look at the success that was had against him last season, his fastball got crushed. His two-seam fastball got crushed. And his slider was great. His changeup was great. His curveball was great. But what pitch do you think the Angels made him throw all the time?
Balls.
Yeah, they made him throw a ton of fastballs. This is consistent with a lot of Angels pitchers. Griffin Canning, who just got cut by Atlanta and signed with the Mets. Same thing. I don't know. Pick up somebody from the Angels. A guy who I think Boston specifically, since they don't like fastballs, I think they're gonna find some success with Sandoval, and he's gonna throw a ton of sliders and changeups next year and out the bullpen, and then next in 26 he's gonna be their 5 starter, and it's just gonna look really good for them. So
This is just another move that makes me feel like the Angels GM needs to be fired.
Finn calling for jobs. It's to that point of the podcast where we're calling for jobs. Um,
I just don't get why you did a fade in that spot.
yeah, they also they DFA'd him with this season and next season under control. Like they weren't DFAing him in a Woodruff situation where he was just going to get one big arbitration estimate. Like Sandoval was going to be on his 5th and 6th year of team control over this contract. So even if this next season would have been a light overpay, you weren't going to be good anyway. Spend that money to keep talent on your roster, and then you would have had him for another season. It just didn't make any sense to me.
You probably could have traded him for something too in 2026.
I agree. Like, just mismanagement here. Really, y'all. Anyway, another guy, we'll hit on another move. Former No Balls Podcast top 100 player. Max Kepler signs a deal with Philly. 1 year, 10 million, I believe. I think this is a good move. You're getting a buy low candidate and Kepler. He's going to play a lot in right field for them. I think this means less ABs for Nick Castellanos, and I don't think that's a bad thing. How do we feel about this Kepler move, Finn?
I always wonder, first of all, 1 year deal, A. Second of all, I always wonder if this means they're going to try and move Nick Castellanos. Not that I think that contract is movable.
Well, I think they could have if they had a realistic asking price of Alec Bohm. But apparently they think Alec Bohm is enough to convince the team to take on the Castellanos contract and get Kyle Tucker in return. So they're not going to move this Castellanos deal.
If the Astros had taken that trade, I probably would have gone for the Astros GM's job.
Yeah, but Dana Brown was intelligent and he didn't listen to the Instagram GMs who said that they should have taken the Alec Bohm and Nick Castellanos deal over Isaac Paredes, who's the best player of those 3 guys, and Cam Smith, who's a top 70 prospect in baseball. Like, it's just, come on, y'all.
And on top of that, they got pitching depth, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah. Talking more about the Kyle Tucker move after we talked the whole episode about it. Let's see here. Moves that are coming soon. I hope we see a Bregman resolution, and I hope it's with the Giants, so Pete Alonso goes to the Mets. I think one of those 2 guys could be falling soon. I think the pitching market it's almost done, but it could be falling a little bit now that Burns and Mania have jumped ship. And then I think Tanner Scott is sneakily one of the best players remaining on the market. I think I would be very surprised if he's not signed before mid-January. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about here?
No.
Okay. I'm quickly getting confirmation if Tanner Scott is a Boris client. And I'm seeing no results. So because if he's a Boris client, he's definitely getting a 1-year, $12 million deal on March 4th. So
Wasn't Soto Moore's contract client?
yeah, it was Juan Soto. That's a little bit different. He was gonna get money anyway. Either way, that'll do it for this episode. Next week's episode for this, we actually don't know yet. We'll talk about that in a second. On Friday, there will be an episode with Sheldon and I. It'll be our bi-weekly recap episode. Or that'll be on Saturday, not Friday. And then, we will see you guys then.